We're glad you guys are here. We've been waiting for a long time for y'all to come. And now you guys are here. And we're excited to have y'all. So this is our family. It's a little smaller tonight because our high schoolers, a lot of them are over at camp. That's why Pastor Hayden's here. That's why Lindsay's not here. Mike and Jenna, they're not here. They're all down in San Diego. And so throughout this week, let's pray for them, all right? Because their life will be changed. If you guys ever get a chance to go to camp, you guys got to go, all right? I'm Kevin McNeil, I'm the junior high director here at the Bridge. This is my beautiful wife.
I'm Ericka McNeil. I'm one of the leaders here. I'm a 7th grade leader here, 7th, 8th grade junior high. So hello and welcome all you new people.
Yeah. Hey, who's excited for summer? What have you guys done so far? Shout it out. Nothing? Video games? Swimming? Wow, you guys hold boring lives. I'm just saying. That wasn't very nice, was it?
That was a little mean.
That was very mean. I'm sorry. But hey, so for those of you guys who don't know, my wife, Ericka, she's a teacher.
Yes, I am. And for most of you, you guys might be thinking, oh, teachers, they get summers off. Great, just like you guys. What you might not know is that a lot of the time teachers have trainings during summer, and guess what I have been doing for the past 2 weeks? I have been going to trainings, and then it was VBS week as well. So I would be waking up in the morning, going to work basically, and then coming to VBS, going home late at night. And then on top of that, I'm pregnant, if you guys have not seen. So there's that to deal with the heat. And also, we've had family and friends come over, and we've had birthday
Our sister-in-law is actually here tonight.
Our sister-in-law's right here all the way from Texas.
Holly.
Okay. And so it's been really busy. Really, really, really busy.
Yeah. How does that compare to your summers growing up?
Oh, it was very different when I was little. So when I was little, summer was a time to relax and to basically not do anything. And so I would spend a lot of my time on the couch, waking up really late and going to sleep really late. And I was either on YouTube, watching makeup tutorials, because that's what I would do back in high school, and watching TV. You guys probably spend some time watching Netflix nowadays, right?
Yeah.
But, just let the lazy days pass by.
So, I'm actually really jealous. That's the way that she did, her summers were. I never could sleep in. See, for me, I don't know how many of you guys also see it this way, but my summers, they were extremely packed. How many of you guys wake up early to go to practice every morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we're summer, right? So you're waking up early to go to practice, and some of you guys still have summer school, and then you guys have family vacations, and you guys you go from one moment to the next, to the next, to the next, right? And it just feels like your summer is gone before it even starts. Does anyone feel that way? Yeah, no? All right, so here's a question. So how many of you would say that your summers become really busy? Like you don't have any time, like you feel like you're always moving from one thing to the next, from summer school to family trips to practices. How many of you guys would feel like that? That's you. I want to see who we're talking to.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a lot of you. Well, how many of you feel like your summers are spent kind of being lazy, worrying about maybe not much, sitting around playing on your phones, being on Netflix? How many of you feel like that?
Yeah.
And then your summer's kind of passing by lazily.
Like before you know it, you wake up at 11. Before you know
over.
it's time to go back to sleep. Is that anyone in here?
Yeah.
You guys
We
are
have
still
a couple
asleep.
of them.
You guys are. I feel like we're all in the same boat here. Like I'm like half asleep right now. I don't know about you guys. But that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But in order to do that, we're actually going to do something slightly different today. We are going to tell a story from Joshua 6. And I know we tell stories all the time, but in this case, we're going to actually use you guys to tell the story. So we're going to do some like reader theater. So, yeah, there's no costumes. But definitely we are going to use all of you, and we need some volunteers. Who's our first volunteer?
our first volunteer is going to be Joshua, our fearless leader who is leading the Israelites.
Who wants to be
Moses.
Joshua?
So who would like to be Joshua?
We're gonna use a 7th grader. We're gonna use Rivaldo. Come on up, Rivaldo. First time here and he's already volunteering. That's better than Edwin. I'm sorry. Guys, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm gonna get this really sassy mood today. Edwin, I'm sorry. So this is everyone. This is Joshua. Say hi, Joshua.
Hi, Joshua.
Ericka, who is Joshua?
So Joshua was actually the person who God commanded to lead a mission. And his mission was to go ahead and go and conquer the promised land that was promised to them back when Moses was leading them. So the
Even
land...
before that.
Even before that, that's true.
It was back in Abraham's time.
But the problem was that Joshua was going to be sent to conquer a land that was already possessed by someone else. So there were already people there possessing that land. So that land was
Jericho.
the land of Jericho.
So Jericho is the first after the Israelites. They wandered the desert for 40 years, right? And then they had to go and they had to conquer the land of Canaan. The first city they came to was Jericho. And so we're actually going to need some people to be Jericho. Who is the tallest people in the room? Because cities are really tall. We got Mark, we got Solomon, Andrew. We need 1 or 2 more.
Me.
Come on up. I'm sorry.
Me.
Come on up, John. Come on up, John. So you guys got to look really city-like. So we'll have a city be right here. Joshua, come on over here.
You have to look like a mighty city.
Looks like a mighty city. So how do we do? No.
Strong city that can...
That works. He's the gym of the city. He's the gym.
There you go.
Perfect.
They're building a structure.
Perfect. And the thing that made Jericho so... Wait. Be the gate. Yeah. There. Oh, there's the gate. Perfect. So the thing that made Jericho so hard to conquer was the walls that it had around it. See, the thing about Jericho, it actually stood on top of this big hill, and then it had these walls that surrounded it. So who wants to be the walls that surround our city? Come on up. We need like 4 more people, 5 more people.
Yes. If not, we're going to start picking. Nobody wants to be a wall.
Who wants to be our wall? We need some girls up here.
See. Yeah.
We need some girls up here.
Oh, there we go. But we're getting some brave guys
All right.
here.
All right, we're going to get some girls to be the army, though, in a second. All right, you guys got to surround the city. So go and surround the city and make it all fortified. We need a few more people to be wall. Come on up, bro.
There you go. Make a
Come
wall.
on up, bro.
Make a wall. Connect yourselves. You guys are not penetrable.
We'll just act like there's a wall on the backside, too. All right?
Big and mighty wall.
Make a mighty wall. Perfect.
There we go. That's awesome.
Perfect. There you go. All right. And who's our last group of people that we need?
The last group of people we need are the armed men. So these were the Israelites who took up arms and walked around the wall. So
Come on up. We need a few people. We need like 6 people.
our brave soldiers, brave
Come on
Jesus
up.
followers.
Yeah, come on up,
I like
Hannah.
that.
This isn't an army.
I know, we need a lot more.
We're not talking about Gideon here.
Alright, let's see.
You gotta stay there. You got an important job to do. Come on, who else gonna
Jenna, come over here. Come on up. Come on up. Come on. There we go.
All right, so the pieces all together. Joshua, come on over. Joshua, come on over, Rivaldo. So this is Joshua. It's starting to get a little crowded on stage, isn't it? So this is Joshua. Joshua, what are you doing? You're leading the army. And see, the thing is that Joshua here, he went and he talked to God. And see what God told him in Jeremiah 6. He said, Joshua, see, I have given you Jericho. Jericho is in your hands. There we go. Joshua, I have given Jericho into your hands. So go and say that. No, wait, God said that to you. Sorry, my bad. I'm sorry. But this is the army you're going to do it with. And so many people, many countries have tried to penetrate this city right here. But they've all failed because of the wall that surrounded them.
The wall,
we got a big
is
wall.
not up right now. Wall, you need to be a wall. There we go. Thank you.
And so what did God tell Joshua to do with the people?
So Joshua said to the people, shout for the Lord, So he said, first of all, he commanded Joshua to tell the people, you are going to walk around the city of Jericho every single day. You're going to surround the city of Jericho. So, Joshua, can you please lead your people around the city of Jericho? Are you guys ready, armed men?
Armed men
and women.
Are y'all ready?
And priests with trumpets and the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes, so they're carrying the Ark of the Covenant. They got the marching band in here, and they're marching around the city. But the thing is, you guys have to be perfectly silent. God said, don't say a word. You gotta lead them. Go, Joshua. There we go. So the first day, they walked around the city one time, and then they went back to camp. And they kind of went, wow, that was interesting, right? Like, perfect. And then they went back to camp. The next day, they woke up and said, all right, Joshua, how are we taking over the city? And Joshua said, what? Let's do the same thing we did yesterday. We're going to walk around the city one more time. Don't worry, we're not going to have you guys do this every single time. We're helping you guys get your workout.
In complete silence.
There was no talking aloud. And they had to do this a total of 6 times. Our city is being very loud right now.
Be quiet, city.
So they did that 6 times. On the last day, though, they said, all right, Joshua, God said to Joshua, all right, we're going to have your whole armed men and women. We're going to walk around the city 7 times. And this is what Joshua heard from God. On Joshua 6:16, it says this. And the Lord said to Joshua, Joshua said to the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. So after you guys walk around the city 7 times, that is what... Yeah, go ahead and start walking 7 times. You can walk really fast, but remember, we've got to be in complete silence. 1. But this is what happened. This is what God told them to do. Could you guys imagine, like, after round 3, what they're thinking?
3.
Why are we doing this?
Oh, he said walk.
4.
Perfect. 5. Do you guys see how long this takes? And this is just a really small little city. The city was much, much bigger than this. They don't take that. 7. All right, Joshua, say it. Say what you're supposed to say. Shout for the Lord has given you the city. Shout! And at this point, all the walls just crumble down. The walls crumble down.
Nice falling wall.
All right, you guys did great. All right, come on down. All right, you guys, you can give them a hand. Give all of our Jericho and our armed people and Joshua and everyone else who was up here. And the wall. I forgot the wall. We can't forget about the wall. Well, today we're going to be doing this. Today we're going to be talking about making the most of our summer. Today we're going to be talking about whether you guys are feeling like every single day you guys wake up and you're really bored, whether you wake up and you're like, I have no time. Today we're going to talk about how we seize every single moment and we do what God has called us, day in and day out. Just like these people walking around the city, we're going to do exactly that. Does it make sense that they had to walk around the city 7 times? I bet you they thought no. Does it always make sense what God calls us to do in our life? Oh, no, it doesn't. But that's what we're going to talk about. So the first thing is this. We're going to look at the word. If you guys look up here, you'll see Carpe Diem. That's Greek. And what it means what that word means in English is this. It means to make the most of the present time, but to give little thought of the future. It's Latin. I am so sorry. It's Latin. All right.
All right, but in order for us to really get the full story, we need to go back and to the time of when Moses was with the Israelites. So back then, the Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians. They had been for a really, really long time. And God had actually called Moses to go and free the Israelites from Egypt. So during this time, the Israelites saw so many miraculous things that God did in their lives. I mean, Moses went ahead and went over there, asked for their liberation, asked for them to be free, and obviously the Pharaoh refused. So what happened was that God brought upon them the 10 plagues. So we saw that whole thing happen. Eventually they let them go. He said, okay, you can take your people and go. So the whole Exodus happened and they left. Then after that, you had the Israelites moving out and then the Egyptians chasing after them. So what did God do? We saw God's great power in the parting of the Red Sea. They saw how God parted the Red Sea for the Israelites to go ahead and walk through safely as their enemies were chasing after them, and God destroyed them, when they were submerged in the waters, when he closed it back up. So even through all of this, the Israelites, they got to see God's great power. They got to see how God was, had their back, how he was there for them. Yet, when God told Moses to send out 12 scouts to go scout out the land of Canaan, to go scout out the promised land that they had been waiting for, the land that was going to be flowing with milk and honey, the land that was promised to them already, that was theirs for the taking, they were scared. They went and they saw this great big city and saw the people there, and they said, they cannot be defeated. They thought, nobody can conquer them. Nobody can take them over. And by saying that and by thinking that, they were already putting themselves in their heads and they were saying, God can't even do this. And so, where we are right now is Carpe Diem is, saying, I like it where I am right now. And that was their way of thinking about it. They were not thinking about how God had their back and how God had their future already secure for them. He already had made that promise for them. They were just thinking about that time right there and how they couldn't do it. They were thinking about the time that, hey, right now I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm comfortable in what I know in this time of day that I have. So they didn't trust him. They rather continue with what they already knew instead of seizing their day and seizing what God had for them, their victory that he had before them. So what did that lead to? That led to them being in the desert roaming for 40 years. And they chose not to listen to God, and those things that were ahead of them were too scary for them. They decided to just follow their daily routines. And if we think about it, what are our daily routines sometimes? Because sometimes we get stuck in that mentality as well, where we don't want to seize our day, but instead we want to go ahead and stay in our comfort zone of waking up late, or watching TV, or spending our time on YouTube or Netflix. So think about those things that are in your lives right now that you are feeling comfortable with, that you're kind of like, I'm stuck in those ways. I'm not seizing my day. I am not going to go get my victory that God has promised me. So, God today is telling us that there is something far better for us, that he has something so much better for each and every one of us. Where Carpe Diem says, I need to make the most of today, and we'll figure out tomorrow when it gets here. God is saying, make the most of today and let me worry about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, so let's go back to Joshua. So can you guys imagine walking around the city on the first day? It's like, okay, we got this, right? This is easy. This is all God wants us to do, is we're just going to walk. And the next day they get up and they wake up early and they say, okay, let's walk. And they start walking around the city. The third day they wake up and they say, we're walking again. Haven't we been doing this for 40 years? Just wandering through the desert, just walking and walking and walking, not really knowing where we're going. Is that what we're still doing? God, what are you actually doing through this? I think there's a reason why the Israelites couldn't talk. Because if they were able to talk, they would have gone to all their friends and said, what are we doing? Why is God making me go through this whole process? But God knows us. He knows our heart. So they keep going. On the seventh day, they do it. And see, what this means is, let's make the most of today and let God worry about tomorrow. What that means is, day one, all I need you to do is do what I've told. Just walk around the city. I got tomorrow. Day two, remember I told you today all we're doing is walk around the city. I got tomorrow. Day 7, this is going to be a tough one. I know you've been looking at this wall going, that's a huge wall. I don't know if that thing's going to fall. What God is saying is just walk around the city 7 times. I'll worry about the wall. And what happened? Well, they walked around the city 7 times, and after they walked, they shouted just as they were told to do. And what happened? The walls came crumbling down. See, God said, let me worry about that. Let me worry about that. You just keep doing what you're supposed to do. But when I first heard this, I was like, well, what if my walls are a lot bigger than those walls? What if my walls are so big that I really don't believe that God can take care of those? Because just walking around them, no. I've been taught my whole entire life I have to be the one to fix everything. I have to be the one to fix when something goes wrong inside my life. I have to be the one to fix it. But could you imagine the Israelites walking, those armed men walking around the city? I think in order to fully understand that, we need to know a little bit about the wall itself. See, Jericho was on top of this big hill. And it came down, and they, first of all, around their inner city, they had a big wall. Huge wall. And then they had their outer city, where the lower class people, all the working people, they lived. And around that, they also had a big wall. See, the way the wall, when Israel's walking around the wall, what they see on their immediate side is they don't even see the wall. They see 13 feet. They see a 13-foot cliff of a wall. And then on top of that cliff, they see another 26 feet of a wall. So when we say our walls are too big, they're looking and they're saying, I'm going to take down this almost 40-foot wall by just walking. Are you sure? 40 feet of a wall is going to fall by me just walking around it? As it can be scary. It can be scary. When we come against these walls and God's saying, I need you to do something that seems really impractical. I need you to go off and I need you to do something that just makes no sense at all. That's what the Israelites were doing. They had been walking for 40 years, just wandering through the desert. But the first people, the spies under Moses, they didn't trust in God. They said, God, those people are too big. We can't take that down. The Israelites here could have done the same thing. That wall is way too big, God. We'll never be able to take it down. All we're armed with is a sword. All we're armed with is a sword. And then there's the question of, well, what are we actually fighting for? What are we fighting for? See, once we take down that wall, what are we actually getting on the inside? See, for me personally, if I'm being told I got to go fight, and I got to potentially risk my life, and I have to put a bunch of effort, a bunch of time, a whole week into just walking around this city, I want to know what it's for. And see, it's real simple for the Israelites. The Israelites, they were told, when you walk around this wall, you're actually going to be on the process to the thing that I promised you. And that's exactly what God has promised us. See, what we're fighting for, when we wake up every single day and we seize the moment, when we wake up and we say, God, what do you have for me today? I'm going to let you worry about tomorrow. What do you have for me today? What we're saying is, God, I want part of that promise. Are we fighting for a land full of milk and honey? Absolutely not. I mean, I love honey, and I kind of like milk. But that's not what we're fighting for. Just off the top of my head, 2 things that we're fighting for is peace and joy. Could you guys imagine waking up every single day and you say, God, what am I supposed to do? And our focus is on Him. Our focus is on what He wants for us. Our focus is on, God, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? First thing I wake up in the morning is sleeping until 11 o'clock bad? Absolutely not. I'm jealous of you. I've never been able to do that. My brother, he can sleep until like 1. And I'm like, I don't like you. So like 4, sorry. Yeah. Is that bad? No. But the problem is that when we wake up and when, instead of getting up immediately, how many of you guys, when you wake up, you roll over, grab your phone, or turn the TV on, and then you lazily lay there? That's me. That's me. I woke up this morning at 5 and I grabbed my phone and didn't get out of bed till 7. Imagine that's what we do every single day. Imagine that's what we do when we wake up. And instead of just for 2 hours, we may get up out of bed, but instead of doing what we're supposed to do, what God has called us to do, we just go to school, we go to practice, we go to summer school, we go to on these family vacations, but we're kind of just sleeping through it. Are we really seizing the day? Not really. We're not seizing the day. We're letting that wall destroy us. We're saying, God, you're not big enough. I know that you have these things you want in our life. I know that, I got caught up in my words there. I know that this is what you're saying to me. But the things that we're fighting for, they are peace, they are joy. Imagine we wake up and we give our life to God. And instead of the chaos of the world around us overwhelming us, imagine we wake up and the peace of God is within us. And the chaos continues to go on around us because, well, we can't change that, can we? No. But that chaos can go on around us, but we have the peace of God inside. Imagine we have the worst tragedy we've ever experienced in our entire life. And all around us, people are saying you should be sad. But you've given it all to God, and you're letting the unending joy from God come in. You're letting Him guide your next steps. You're trusting Him to seize your day, and you're letting God worry about tomorrow. Not tomorrow just to worry about itself. When that happens, well, we're going to see a completely different shift, not only in your life, not only in this youth group, not only at your school, but when that truly happens in your life, you're going to be on fire. And so what are we fighting for? Well, peace and joy are just two really simple things. But there's so much more. The promises God has for each and every single one of us, I mean, they keep going on. We got the fruits of the Spirit, right? That's what we're fighting for. So is that wall too big? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So we need to go ahead and ask ourselves, are you ready though? If God were to come to you right now and ask you to go fight the Jericho in your life, okay, whatever wall that it is that you're facing with, are you ready to go up and go? Ask yourself, do you have the training for it? Are you equipped with the tools to go ahead and conquer that Jericho? So let's look back at the Israelites. The Israelites, when they went ahead and went to conquer Jericho, I mean, they were armed with swords and weapons and shields and all that. But if you really think about it, that was not what they used to demolish those walls. They did not use the tools, the physical tools that they had with them. They had something far greater and far more powerful. And so I want you to think about that. And you don't have to respond, just think about yourself. Do you know what that weapon is? And are you armed with it? So, if you think about it, what they fought with, first and foremost, was the faith that they had in God. It was not their armor, it was not their weapons, it was their faith that they had, the trust that they had in Him to seize their victory. God had already promised them that victory, and they were there, obedient, ready to take it. So God has a plan for each and every one of us, and we need to make the most of today and let God worry about tomorrow, which is exactly what the Israelites did. They were obedient to Him, following His orders, walking around the wall, not knowing exactly what was going to happen, but at the end, God ended up surprising them with that victory, with the walls being demolished. And that's what God has planned for our lives, our victory. So how do you arm yourself? How do you find that unconditional faith in God? Well, it comes through training, because nothing comes just easily out of nothing. If you want to go ahead and if you're in a sport and you want to physically be fit, or if you want to go ahead and train for some type of physical activity, you need to hit the gym. You need to go ahead and be disciplined in your practices. Same thing if you want to conquer some other type of job. For example, if you want to become, say, an engineer, you have to go ahead and pass all those math classes. You have to continually practice them. And the same thing happens when we're trying to grow in our faith. we have to go ahead and arm ourselves with the things that God wants you to do. But we need to seek him. We need to find him. And if we don't do that each and every day, we're not going to be equipped with that. So we need to be growing our faith each and every day and seek him. So first, we're going to go ahead and talk about a couple of things that you can do to go ahead and grow your faith in him. And the first thing we have is to surround yourself with people who can walk with you with your faith. So who you have around with you means a lot. You're always going to be working towards something. And those people can be people who are going to build you up or people who are going to destroy you. So if you're walking with people that continue to bring you closer to God, they're going to be taking you further with God. If you look at the Israelites did not walk by themselves. They walked unanimously around the wall together to conquer their victory. They were united. So you need to ask yourself, what are those people in your life that you can walk with that are going to help you walk towards God, walk through the faith of God with you? We are always training towards something. And one of the major components is that we are either working with people to build up the walls in our lives, or we're working with other people through God to build ourselves up so that we're able to tear those walls down. So I'm going to say that again because it's kind of important, okay? So we're always working towards something. Everything that you do, the time that you spend in whatever it is that you're spending most of your time in, you're working towards something in your life. And so you need to ask yourself, are you working with people to build up walls in your life, or are you working with others through God to build ourselves up so that we're able to tear those walls down?
All right, the second thing is this. We gotta spend some time in his word. Right? We gotta spend some time in his word. How many of you guys play sports? I need to say it again.
Yeah.
Sport. Football. When you guys play sports, what do you guys have? You have your playbook. Right? You have your playbook. You know what your plays are. You know exactly what you have to do. The Bible is our playbook. It tells us exactly what we have to do. See, the reality is, if we wanted to get more fit, it's as though our Bible is the bench press. It's the treadmill inside of our life. All we have to do is we have to actually physically get on it and actually use it. We have to actually use the treadmill on a daily basis. Will and I we spend a lot of time training for a half marathon, and he told me that he was talking to me about, like, when you're training, when you're conditioning, you're really not doing much until you hit like the 4 or 5 miles in. Up until that point, you're just wasting energy. You're still doing something, but you see the exceptional growth around the 4th or 5th mile. How much time are we spending in his word? How much time are we spending in his word? Because if we just go there and we spend 5 minutes, that's great. It's doing something. But how much time are we actually spending in his word? We got to continue to do that. See, the tools we fight with, the tools we fight with to tear down walls, it's not the swords like the Israelites had, right? That's not the swords. That is a major tool that we have, and we just got done with the series, right? Talking about swords, what our sword is. If you guys remember, what is it? It's the word. In Ephesians 6, it talks about the armor of God. The armor of God, the last thing is the sword of the Spirit, which is God's word. God's word is our sword. It's the only item that we have for offense. Guys, we got to spend some time in his word. It's how we continue to get closer to him. It's how we continue to arm ourselves. So every single day we got to spend time in his word.
And third of all is prayer. So prayer is the way that we contact God. It's the way that we communicate with God. You know, you guys have a lot of friends, and probably whenever something happens in your life, you're over there texting, each other about, like, oh my goodness, this happened. Or like telling them every single detail about everything. Well, have you guys ever had it when, like, you kind of stop talking with the friend and kind of that friendship kind of like dwindles down? Maybe like, oh, I don't talk to that person that much anymore. It kind of becomes a distant friendship. Well, the same thing happens if we do not continually communicate with God. And so prayer is something that we need to be doing daily, guys. And it's that continual communication with God that also is going to help us to grow in our faith. So if you look back into verse 2, Joshua was actually told by God what he was going to do. So if we are not continually in prayer, continually communicating with God and growing our faith in him through prayer, how are we supposed to know what God has planned for us? How are we supposed to know what God is telling us to do if we're not spending that time each and every day to build up that communication and that relationship? Because that's what it is. We need to have and build up the relationship with Christ. So through prayer, we experience faith, and we also build up on our faith. So something to think about is, are you making that time each and every day to pray? And I'm not talking about the prayer where you're sitting around your dinner table, saying a cute little prayer with your family, thanking God about your meal that you're gonna have that day, okay? I'm not saying that's bad. That's not the prayer I'm talking about. The prayer I'm talking about is that time where you are by yourself in a space that maybe is secluded, not surrounded by anything, not surrounded by distractions, but where you really just like zone in and have communication with the Lord. Have that time to worship him, to thank him, to ask him about, whatever doubt you're going through, to have communication about what's going on in your life, like what are those walls in your life, and just give that up to him. And also that time to listen, because God speaks to us through prayer a lot. And so are you giving that time each and every day to do that? So really, you need to ask, are we talking to God?
All right, the last thing is this. It's time we make a plan. It's time we make a plan. There's a question that a lot of adults like to ask people, and I kind of am sick of it, but I'm still going to ask it to you. Where do you guys see yourself in 5 years? For you incoming 7th graders, you're like, well, in high school. Of course. You're a senior. But how do you see yourself in 5 years? How do you want to be in 5 years? Do you want to be the same person that you are right now? As 5 years is a long time. And if we aim at nothing, we're going to hit it every time. So if we don't know where we want to head, if we don't continually say, God, where do you want me to be? How am I going to work on that? Then we're going to continue to hit that. Because the reality is, there's lots of people who are like, I want to read the Bible more. Well, I'll start that tomorrow. I'm going to read the Bible one year. I'm going to read the whole Bible in a year, but I'll start that come January. Or I'll start that come next month. As tomorrow never comes. It's time we build a plan today. And so we're actually going to help you with the first thing. All right, in a second, we're going to get into some small groups, not like our normal small groups. We're just going to huddle around with people around us. And I'm going to help ask you guys to get just a little uncomfortable. And I'm going to have you guys jump around with some people you may not know. Some people that, if you're a senior or a junior, jump in maybe with a few junior hires. And junior hires, well, when they do that, just say, yeah, you guys are pretty cool. And let them
even if we're not cool.
Exactly.
That's me.
That's me. But it's kind of, well, never mind. Never mind. Hey, so let's do it. All right. Everyone go ahead and stand up. Stand up. Annalise, can we get some house lights? Just press house and then turn the intensity up to like 40. All right, so go ahead and look around. Let's find somebody find some people that you may not know. And go ahead and make a group with them. Go ahead and say like 4, 5, 6 people inside of a group, all right?
It can be the people around you. Just kind of huddle up together.
Or you can just turn around and there might be people that you don't know.
Sorry, what's your name?
Aren't you a freshman?
Yeah, I just finished 8th grade, so after summer I'm going to... Are y'all going to join us?
5. All right, you got it. Right here.
It's awkward and stuff. Like you're not really in a grade.
Join us.
Join us. Maybe I should go there.
Yes.
I should.
Yes.
Oh, so you're a freshman?
Yeah, after summer I would do.
It's pretty cool.
Oh.
Hey, you go, girls. You guys?
Are you guys all in groups now? No?
I think
No?
we need to start counting down because my third graders can do this faster.
Oh, wow.
I'm just saying.
Well,